Listen to this podcast now
on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Leadership Thread with Dr. Peggy Polonis.
I'm Dr. Peggy Polonis. Join me on each episode where I unravel the story that shaped leaders, tracing the thread that led them where they are today. Because leadership isn't born in adulthood. And thank you once again for joining us on the Leadership Thread, education, ethics, and sustainability.
Download all of Red Apple Media's podcasts right now through your favorite podcast platform. The Red Apple Media Podcast Network presents This is Protecting America. Now, here's Emmy-winning journalist Rita Cosby.
Welcome to another edition of Protecting America. I'm Rita Cosby. President Trump is not only our commander-in-chief, but he is leading on the world stage in a big way, whether it's on Venezuela, Iran, the Israel-Gaza peace plan, or bringing an end, hopefully soon, to Russia's war on Ukraine. And joining us now to discuss this and so much more is Lieutenant Colonel Tony Shaffer. He is a retired Department of Defense intel officer, and he's also president of Project Sentinel. Tony, it's great to have you here.
Hey, Rita, thank you for having me. I always enjoy our conversation.
Have you ever seen a president commanding the world stage like President Trump is, dominating policy to such a degree, really dictating policy, not just for America, but really for all the nations of the world?
No, I haven't. And I think it's indicative of two things. And I think the first one you'll agree with me because you kind of know him and you know New York. He's a New Yorker. He just jumps in and does things. So he's kind of telegraphed how he would be leading from, I remember interviews going back to like the late 80s or 90s when he talked about what he would do. So he's doing exactly what he said he would always do. He would go out, he would look at situations and try to make things work. Not always to the benefit of the bad guys. I think the bad guys are finding out the hard way. He's a man of his word, which is good for us. So I think, being a New Yorker, speaking very boldly and brashly and following up with action has been a great breath of fresh air. I think so anyway. I think the audience does too. Secondly, he has a sense of what needs to be done in a way that it's like a global Rubik's cube that he's kind of fixing. The world was in a mess, Rita. We can agree on that, I think. So he's going through and he's fixing things, and he's trying to get this cube back into alignment so things work. America, for better or for worse, is the economic engine of the planet, period. We are the most dominant force militarily, period. To pretend otherwise is insane. We've had multiple administrations who basically wanted to quote unquote, put us in our place, basically just deny the facts I just mentioned, and then somehow work to undermine American foreign policy and our interests, which to me is literally insane. We've had multiple administrations do that, Barack Obama, Joe Biden being two of the most severe. So we stopped that. And by the way, America first doesn't mean America only. America first means we will put our interests, we will formulate policies and operational concepts and actions that benefit the American people, but still help our allies. So it's a global effort that's focused on, while America is first, we're actually working to fix the entire planet, and I think that's what's happening.
That's a really great analogy, Tony. And, I also think he sees the big picture. He steps back and he sort of sees, okay, if I put leverage over here and do this one at the same time. Often presidents, even those who have been, strong commanders in chief, and you brought up some that have not been, obviously, in our past too, but even strong ones sometimes seem to be almost unilateral. He kind of looks at it as a bit of a chess game, if you will.
Yeah, exactly. And he's very good at playing the chess game. And he's actually able to put things – there's something – you'll appreciate this analogy. There's something called empire chess. You can actually have four players on the board playing chess. And by the way, just notable as a spy piece, that's a unique piece to the board, just saying. And there's actually a lot of parallels to what he's doing. To playing, they talk about three-dimensional chess. Well, he's playing empire chess is what he's doing. It's an actual game, and you can actually learn how to do it. Well, he instinctively knows what to do, and I think he's been excellent in looking at how national security is linked directly to commerce. Commerce is linked directly to freedom of navigation. Freedom of navigation is linked to energy, free and available. Well, not free, but inexpensive oil that drives economy. So he understands all this, and he's working to implement these policies, which actually benefit not only America, although I think we'll be the first in line, but the world.
Yeah, great points. And also, as you're talking about tariffs, so much of it is this sort of economic engine, sort of, okay, look, you can come to the table, we'll make you prosperous, we'll invest in you, we'll help you. But if you don't come to the table, you're not only going to be squeezed militarily, you'll be squeezed economically.
Right. And that's what's going on with Iran right now. So I think the Iranians have learned a really hard lesson that one administration may send you $8 billion on an airplane. The next one is going to be bombing you with other airplanes. And that's what's happened here. So the Iranians really did not prepare for a Donald Trump's presidency, especially with the Israelis. But Benjamin Netanyahu said some very kind things. He gave President Trump the award. This is the first time ever a non-Israeli has received this Israeli prestigious award, which is significant. And so I think right now, as we speak, the Iranian mullahs may not have long left to rule that country because of the economic hardships that have been created by us going after the shadow fleet. I think there's more of that coming. We're looking at how we can do things to destabilize them, much like we're doing with Maduro. A destabilized Iran is Iran that cannot facilitate and fund terrorist acts against us and our allies in the region. And I think that's one of the key things about how he's using economics to benefit us in the region by actually taking a bite out of terrorism.
Every week, the Payne family cuts straight to the real financial story.
The one question, Bob, everyone's asking is, are we in an artificial intelligence bubble? You've been through boom and bust. What do you think?
No hype, no myths. Just what actually matters to your money.
Does feel very similar to what we experienced in the 90s. Where are we, though? Are we in 1995, 1997, 1999?
Listen to the Pain Points of Wealth on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
This National Foster Care Month, Marine Toys for Tots is providing hope to children who need it most. Staff Sergeant James Caldwell, who grew up in foster care himself, shares that while handing out gifts at a Toys for Tots distribution event, a little girl looked up at him, reached into her bag, pulled out a stuffed animal and said, "Someone needs to make sure you get a toy too." That simple gesture embodies the heart of Marine Toys for Tots, ensuring every child, including those in foster care, experiences the kindness that can transform their future. Visit toysfortots.org today.
And also at the same time, also looking at peace through strength, but making sure they know that you're willing to use that strength. I mean, Iran certainly understands that. You and I talked after he bombed those nuclear sites there in Iran. He's also, it's an interesting method, too, because what he does, Tony, and you can certainly appreciate this, he'll telegraph, okay, look, I'm hoping you're going to come to the table. We're hearing reports that you're beefing up your nuclear facilities. I hope that's not true. I hope you do want to come to the table and talk. But if you don't, you're basically going to be obliterated, and I don't mind hitting them harder again, or even allowing Israel to hit them harder again. So it's interesting. He's kind of giving them the opportunity to come to the table, and they know that if they don't come to the table, what's coming next?
There's a Latin American term which is apt to the conversation. It's called silver or the lead. You get the silver if you want to actually play ball, you're going to benefit economically, or you get the lead, which is kind of in the form of a bullet. So he's doing that effectively, and I know this sounds a bit maybe aggressive, but I think it's necessary because for far too long we've had nations act badly, undermine regional security, and then actually target Americans. So, anytime now an American is targeted, you know darn well that President Trump is going to do something to either help get you back if you're captured as a hostage, or if you're killed or maimed by a terrorist, your family will be reassured by the fact that he's not going to stand for that. So I think literally there's a new sheriff in town, and the world knows it. The left doesn't know what to do about it because think about this, Rita. He's now got the left supporting fraud in daycares. That's like a thing they're supporting narco terrorists who literally have brought fentanyl and other drugs into the country, which is a weapon of mass destruction to kill Americans. He's got the Democrats supporting all this stuff. So I can't form any thoughts in my mind how any American would vote for the Democrats come the midterms.
You know, you bring up a great point because you're right. They're like going crazy. They cannot believe that he's doing these very aggressive actions. And if you look back, and I played, I think it was a clip from Joe Biden, Tony. I think it was 1989. Joe Biden sounded like he would have blown up every ship in the ocean that had drugs on it. So, it just is so transparent, the politics of it all. And you're right, the Democratic lunacy that they're actually out there upset that he's targeting narco terrorists and saying, they're innocent sailors. Did you ever think you'd see that day?
No. And as a matter of fact, Chuck Schumer, as a congressman, wrote the law in '86, the maritime law that we're now using to justify the actions. So the only rational Democrat I've seen so far who came out of the briefing on this issue, he got the full briefing on what we're doing, is John Fetterman. Senator Fetterman said, yeah, nothing to see here. It's all legal. And, of course, the Democrats are upset with him. And I got this question tonight, on when I was going through from Jason on the Right Squad. Tulsi Gabbard signed up as an anti-war person. Yeah, I know, but she's the one giving the intel to the strikes. She's the DNI. So, we are actually working to do things to stop clear and present dangers to the United States. I don't think for a minute Tulsi Gabbard would stay in there supporting the president's efforts if she thought somehow we were doing something illegal or immoral based on what she has said in the past. So I do believe, based on everything going on, the Democrats have nowhere to run. I think they literally are lining up behind people who literally are the worst of the worst on the planet Earth.
Yeah, it's some of the rhetoric really is stunning. Now, we touched about Venezuela. What do you make of the fact, some of the new developments, Tony, that President Trump actually went after sort of a boat facility, or at least CIA did, at least according to multiple reports. Yeah. How much do you think that amps up the pressure that, okay, we can hit you even on land?
Well, this is not unique. I have to be a little bit careful. So there's a campaign plan that's being executed. So this is the first thing we've heard, but it's not the first thing that happened. So I think this one was too public to ignore. It's like, yeah, we hit something. So I can tell you that we're looking at deeper, what I would term as a military term, Clausewitzian term of centers of gravity. We have done an extensive mapping of how the Venezuelan leadership functions. And that means everything from the top all the way down to where ships go, where trains go, where cars go. And we're looking at options on how to continue to put pressure on Maduro directly. If people want to read more about this, there's a book out by Mark Bowden. My friend Mark wrote a book about our operations in the late 80s that was focused on killing Pablo Escobar. Pablo Escobar being the leader of the Cali cartel. He had essentially taken over the Colombian government, running it pretty much. So we had to go in and take him out. So people can kind of see how we do things through looking at that book as kind of an exemplar. But I'm just telling you, Rita, there's way more going on than what's being acknowledged or is obvious right now.
How much do you think Maduro's days are numbered? What do you think with the squeeze play on him from all the directions that we know and that you know?
I think he's going to be gone by early next year. I don't want to give a specific date, but I think sometime between January and February, he's going to see that there's really no options left. I don't necessarily think President Trump wants to assassinate him. I think that crosses some lines that even, our side would be a little bit reticent to allow him to cross. With that said, I think the economic pressures, and most Democrats agree with us that Maduro cheated. He's not a legitimate president. There are others who want to come in and take over that country because this is, everybody complains about, well, we're doing regime change. Well, not really. We're trying to remove someone who actually was cheated to retain power in that country. So we're actually trying to help the rightful government restore, basically take charge. That's what we're trying to do.
Yeah, no, that puts a whole different face on it, like Maria Machado and some of those others. Of course, she got the Nobel Peace Prize. The other big thing that just happened recently, Tony, was also going after individuals. And these are individuals who are believed to have this sort of Venezuela-Iran tie. And those who have maybe been responsible with drones, selling illegal drones. Talk about how that's a big deal, going after those. Is that a message to say, hey, look, we know where your boats are. We also know where your business is.
Yeah. So it's all of essentially government and economic capability targeting effort by us. And anything we see that they're doing that we believe encroaches on an area where they're helping an adversary we hate, we're going to do things. We're going to take action to limit or eliminate that. So, I think we're going to see more. I think you're going to see more public strikes against infrastructure beyond the dock. I think this was just kind of this is putting the toe in the water saying, hey, we're starting a campaign on the land. And I think you're going to see more and more acknowledgement. We're going to go after any number of targets like this in the very near future.
What about also Iran, too? Do you believe that they're developing nuclear weapons again? What's sort of the sense? You have your ear to the ground on intel.
So two things. First, I think, and I know Benjamin Netanyahu wants to focus on this, like, no, stop. We've really got to get focused on ending the Hamas occupation of Gaza. We've got to get that done, Rita. We're months into the agreement, and we're not even at phase 2. And there's all this issue regarding which Arab ally wants to go in and which shouldn't. Just make a decision. Get them in there to disarm Hamas before they're able to rearm, retool, and start attacking the Israelis again. We've got to get that done. So I would implore, and if I were talking to the president right now, I'm not telling you to ignore Benjamin Netanyahu. I'm telling you we should be done with Hamas because that's the most critical thing we need to do. The Iranian thing, I think, is problematic. Do they want to get nuclear weapons? Yes. Are they anywhere on the ball field to do that? No. One of the great things about our intelligence, we knew to a great degree of granularity, Rita, how much material they've been able to obtain and refine. We knew that, and we struck it. They're years away from that right now. Are there other things that they'll do to reestablish command and control of their proxies like the Houthi and Hezbollah? Yeah. Absolutely. We should focus on that. But the nuclear program, I'd let that take a rest for now.
You talked about, obviously, Israel and Gaza, but this next step, as you know all too well, Tony, is about disarming Hamas. Right. And I don't see any sign that they're willing to do it. They did agree to it.
They're not going to do it.
But they're not going to do it. So how do you get, I know you brought up, bring in an Arab country, but it seems like a lot of them are reluctant to go into what may be a bloodbath.
So but that's the agreement. We had we need to look at the Abraham Accord because that's what President Trump's been kind of touting. Look, we got to get to the point of where we can get to the economic recovery and development. Well, we're not going to get there, Rita, until Hamas is gone. Just saying, kind of obvious. So you got to do the hard things first. And the hard thing is picking the team, because it can't be us. I get that. But you got to pick a team. The team I would pick, Saudi Arabia, Jordan, Egypt. Put them together, give them what they need, let them go in and do the disarmament. Work with the Israelis. Be done with it. The sooner you get that done with Hamas, the sooner you can get back to having a Palestinian government that is not going to be attacking Israel as an ally and gives a path forward for economic reform and development. And no more building tunnels. So you got to do it. You cannot get to the real meat of phase 2, which is economic development, until you get rid of Hamas. You got to do it. I know it's hard, but we got to do it.
Yeah, there is no other way because there will never be peace if they're still there and if there's still a fighting force in any shape or form. I 100% agree. What about Russia, Ukraine? Because that's another big thing. We know in the last few days, President Trump met with Zelensky. He's talked to Putin. Presumably, he said he spoke to him before. I'm sure he spoke to him after. Where is that headed? Do you see any end in sight? Because Zelensky keeps saying that he certainly doesn't trust Putin and he doesn't really believe that Putin wants peace.
Yeah, I'm going to be optimistic, believe it or not, here. So right now at this point, President Trump said there's about 5% they disagree on. I'd say it's closer to 10 to 15 because they're pretty big points. So the 3 points that are the sticking points that President Trump's talking about, first off, is the Zaporizhzhia nuclear plant. who gets to run that? Well, the Russians want to keep it. The Ukrainians want it back. And so there's talk of a compromise. I don't know what that's going to look like, but I can tell you this: the Russians aren't going to give it up. It's just not in the cards. So, and I know President Trump kind of knows that. So there's something they're trying to do. Donbass, land, the issue of who gets to have Donbass, and the idea of referendums, of a plebiscite that actually allows the people to vote. I think they're getting really close on that. I think if there's a demilitarized zone with the plebiscite, I think that may be something both sides can accept regarding Donbass and some of the other regions in dispute. So that's I think getting way closer. And of course, the issue regarding security guarantees. President Trump put on the table this 15-year guarantee. Zelensky wants more. There's an implied, or we don't know yet, an implied Article 5 requirement, Article 5 being the NATO requirement that if one is attacked, all will respond. That's what the Ukrainians want, and they're willing to give up NATO membership if they can get that. And that's a big thing regarding Russia. Russia says no NATO for Ukraine. So if we then become the guarantor of peace or some ally group, the Russians won't allow the Europeans in, which I get. The Japanese have kind of said, hey, we're willing to do it. That's kind of cool. And so there actually may be a force, a peace force that comes in from some of our other allies that takes that on. So I'm with President Trump on this. I think the pieces are all there. I think if they can get through some of these harder discussions, we could see peace by the end of January.
That would be enormous. And even, we saw Zelensky come out and said that he looks like the referendum, he would put it up for a referendum. Right. So exactly. He's made some concessions. And boy, if Trump could get that, that would be enormous. You could tell this is the one, as we're talking about Trump, the negotiator, Tony. Yeah. Finally, this is the piece that clearly is keeping him up at night because he's solved these 8 others. And he's like, this one I need to solve. He understands it.
Oh, yeah. And he's devoted to it. I mean, he's, putting it out. But I see a meeting sometime. Let me put get my crystal ball out, as Rob Astorino always tells me. He's like, get your 8 ball out and make a prediction. Well, my prediction here, Rita, is I think we're looking at something towards mid-January, a meeting by all 3 men together in the same room. Zelensky, Putin, and Trump coming together to talk about this for one final push. So.
Well, that would be amazing because President Trump says he doesn't want to have that kind of a meeting until it looks like it's almost sealed and that he could. Exactly. So that would be extremely optimistic. Let's pray you're right with your great crystal ball, my friend.
Yeah.
And everybody be sure to subscribe and share to this incredible podcast. So many great points and great insight from the great Lieutenant Colonel Tony Shaffer. Tony, thank you so much for joining us, and let's pray for peace in 2026 for sure.
Right. Well, thank you, Rita. God bless you, and Happy New Year.
And everybody, I'll be back soon with another great edition of Protecting America. And of course, you can catch me every weeknight, 10 p.m. to midnight on the legendary WABC Radio. This is Rita Cosby, and thanks for all you do to protect America.
Every week, the Payne family cuts straight to the real financial story.
The one question, Bob, everyone's asking is, are we in an artificial intelligence bubble? You've been through boom and bust. What do you think?
No hype, no myths. Just what actually matters to your money.
Does feel very similar to what we experienced in the 90s. Where are we, though? Are we in 1995, 1997, 1999?
Listen to the Pain Points of Wealth on the Red Apple Podcast Network.